practices. So we introduced these GMPs, wherein we talked about the definition, need of GMPs, objectives, and the regulations of GMP. Today we'll be talking about the components of GMP and the elements of GMP. So the components include the GMP requires that the manufacturing process is fully defined before being initiated and all the necessary facilities are provided. Okay, so before manufacturing can take place, the process has to be fully understood. That is one thing. Okay, that means it is fully understood which are the variables which will influence the quantity attributes. And secondly, you must have all the facilities, the equipment, the space requirements, the storage facilities before manufacturing can take place. So regarding all this manufacturing process, this is the GMP guidelines are all about this manufacturing process regarding their equipments and the process. Then personnel must be adequately trained. Okay, so what are the components or what this GMP talks about? Okay, what are the various chapters or which are the guidelines related to what? Okay, so that is about the components of GMP. So it is about the process, about the facilities, it is about the guidelines about the personnel, must be adequately trained, their training, okay, suitable premises, it is the guidelines about the premises, it is guidelines about the equipment which are to be used, guidelines about the correct materials to be used, the approved procedures to be adopted, suitable storage, transport facilities available, and about how the records are to be maintained and how they are to be made. So that is basically the components. That means there are various chapters or there are guidelines regarding various aspects of manufacturing. So this is in a nutshell the components of GMP, like for instance quality management, quality assurance, GMP, then sanitation and hygiene. Okay, that is cleaning of the premises, and hygiene, that is personnel themselves, those who are there in the production department, they have to keep themselves clean first of all. So that is sanitation and hygiene of the personnel itself. Then about the complaints and product recalls, then self-inspection and quality audits premises, the materials, the holding and distribution, the quality control, guidelines about qualification and validation, guidelines about contract production and analysis regarding personnel, their training and their personnel hygiene. Okay, and then about the equipment and documentation. So that is all the components of GMP. Now we'll have to go into the detail of all these components, what these guidelines say. That will take up later onwards. Now we have the elements of GMP, or the principles you can also say. So the elements principles say that all the manufacturing processes are clearly defined, systematically reviewed in light of experience, and shown to be capable of consistently manufacturing pharmaceutical products of the required quality that comply with their specifications. Qualification and validation are performed. Okay, so when we talk about GMP, it says that before that GMP plants could be certified, the process should be clearly understood. That is what it says. The process must be validated, okay, and then all the necessary resources are provided. Then further, these elements or the principles of GMP include that instructions, procedures are written in clear and unambiguous language. Procedures, that is the SOPs, standard operating procedures, okay. So then the operators, suppose, are to be trained before they carry out their manufacturing activities to carry out the procedures correctly. Then it talks about or lays emphasis on the records and documentation. That is the important principle or the element of GMP, that anything that goes on, any activity, it should be recorded. There should be proper manner as to how that record is to be maintained, how it is to be documented. So records are made during manufacture to show that all the steps have been taken and that the quantity and quality of the products are as expected. Then the elements also talk about the proper storage of the products, which minimizes any risk to their quality. Manufacture and distribution records, which enable the complete history of a batch to be traced and retained in comprehensible, accessible form. A system is available for the recall and the batch of product from sale and supply. So basically the elements or the principles, okay, of GMP start with the weighing part, the premises part, up till through this manufacturing process, how that manufacturing process is to be carried out regarding the personnel and everything. And then finally the finished products, how they are to be stored how they are to be recorded. Even the batch records are to be maintained. Batch records, that means the when the batch is being manufactured, which are the in-process tests which have been performed on the collected samples, and which are the finished product tests which have been performed, and what were their test results. That is basically the batch records. Okay, so all that must be maintained, and not even just that much. The company must also have a system for recalling the batches from the market. Suppose if there is a complaint, okay, once the batch has been put into the market and there is a complaint from the market, the customer, let us say, is not satisfied, or the retailer itself finds some leakage problem, let us say, in the package, in the packaged bottles or something like that. Okay, or probably there is a change of color, something like that. So there can be a recall also. Or for instance, the company itself finds out that it has done something wrong in the formulation. In that case, there must be a system to recall that, bring back that product from the market back to the company. Then there is also about the complaints. Elements also include about the complaints about the marketed products which are examined, that causes of quality defects investigated, and appropriate measures are taken in respect of the defective products to prevent the recurrence. Okay, so all these, that means basically right from day from the step zero. Okay, right from step one, where you start with the weighing of the raw materials. In fact, before that, when the raw material arrives in the manufacturing premises, how it is to be handled, how it is to be stored, it is to be tested. First of all, the specifications are to be tested for the raw materials, and then they will be released for manufacturing. Then the in-process finished product, and down to the market. So every aspect of manufacturing is covered by the GMPs, and that's what the elements or the principles are about, that you have to take into consideration each and every